While most presidents wore suit jackets, ties, and dress pants all the time, you don't have to any longer. Because Presidents Unplugged has merch. If you want to check out some new shirts to buy as a nice gift for somebody in your family or just something that you want yourself, go to presidentsunpluggedmerch.com to check out new shirts, hoodies, crew necks, and anything else that you can dream of. Now in many more colors and new designs coming soon. I'm very excited for the President's Unplugged merch store to finally be open. Now, let's get back to the show. One month, 30 days. That's all William Henry Harrison ever got at that shot of a presidential term. I'm Ty Svensson, and welcome back to Presidents Unplugged. Today we're talking about a very interesting but short-lived man, William Henry Harrison. The president that everyone knows because he was only here for a little bit of time. But let's start from the beginning, get a backstory, and then we'll get into that juicy 30-day plot. On February 9th, 1773, William Henry Harrison was born in a wealthy family in Virginia. As I said with the George Washington episode, he's one of our 8 presidents to be born in Virginia. And being born in 1773, William Henry Harrison is our last president to be born before our nation gained independence. Martin Van Buren, the president after him, was younger than he was, and it just ended up working out that William Henry Harrison was our last president born before we were independent from stinking Britain. I mean, amazing Britain. We love you, Britain. William Henry Harrison had a good childhood. He was from a wealthy family, so he had good education, and he joined the United States Army at 19 years old. He did this for a little bit, and then something came up. The territory of Indiana. Indiana, as we know now, is a state of the United States, but before places become states, a lot of them were territories. So he became the first governor of the Indiana Territory. He was a strong leader in Indiana. He showed a fighting power, and he was a strong man in his reform and how he took things. He took things serious, and it wasn't even a state yet. So his determination to keep things right in Indiana showed to the people, and he was very strong. But there was a problem in Indiana. Indians. I'm not racist. That was literally the problem. There were Indians who wanted land, but the United States settlers, not settlers at this point, strong United States people wanted land, and so did the Indians. So they fought over it. In 1811, William Henry Harrison led the troops and fought against the Indians in the Indiana Territory, fighting for land at the Battle of Tippecanoe. Tippecanoe. He fought this war and won this war. It was a small war, but it was big enough that people gave him a new nickname, Old Tippecanoe. What a name. I wish I was called that. No, I don't. So after this victory, he was known as a pretty successful general. But it wouldn't be long before he fought again. After this 1811 victory, he fought again in the Battle of 1812. If you don't know, the Battle of 1812 was the war when the White House burned down. Oh my gosh, I could do a great episode on that. And William Henry Harrison was just a young lad, yet again, and he had a large victory in another battle, the Battle of Thames, killing, this is a fun name, Tecumseh, the Indian chief. Y'all, what a guy. Winning 2 pretty big victories, leading the charge, and just an overall war hero. war heroes do very well in politics. Andrew Jackson, George Washington, and now William Henry Harrison. What do these three men have in common? They were three amazing war generals who were voted for the presidential office. Whoa, I'm getting ahead of myself. Give it about 35 more years. So, after winning these wars, William Henry Harrison slowed down on his war-hungry nature and became a House of Representatives representative and a senator of Ohio for about 16 years before he was chosen as a Whig candidate. Just a little note, I'm not going to go too in-depth about the party, but the Whig Party was a party made by Henry Clay in the 1830s. It was a pretty strong party. We've had 4 presidents come from the Whig Party. And it was a party that valued reform and valued normalcy. We don't want to go crazy radical to one or the other way. We want to just be kind of normal in the middle, calm. So he was chosen as the Whig candidate in 1836. He wins the election by a landslide. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. The Democratic candidate, Martin Van Buren, or Andrew Jackson's second vice president, piggybacked off of Andrew Jackson's success and won the presidency in 1836 by a landslide. So, like a lot of presidential candidates, he wasn't giving up there. He took this loss as kind of a stab in the chest, but he got up from it and went back into presidential runnings in 1840. Now, if Martin Van Buren had a great presidential term, he might have won again. But he didn't. The Panic of 1837, aka the Great Depression of the 1830s, was an economic downturn that Martin Van Buren didn't really do a lot for. So, he wasn't very liked. But William Henry Harrison was a liked person. He was calm, he was awesome, he was from a log cabin. Shoot. Not these campaign lies again, I'm telling you, whether it's a cherry tree, myths about your wooden teeth, or whatever, politics likes to lie to get people in position. William Henry Harrison had a great campaign in 1840, even though it was kind of stacked on lies. His campaign said, William Henry Harrison lived in a log cabin as a child. He's just like you, just like the common man. Even though this guy lived on a multi-million-dollar slave plantation growing up, he lived on a log cabin. Yeah, note to self, politics lie a lot to make people sound better than they are. So, William Henry Harrison was not some aristocrat with $1 million and you do not. He was just like you. Which was obviously very true, as we figured out by his lies. But something's a little bit more known about this presidential run. His campaign slogan. Back then, they didn't really have campaign slogans. So, he made a great one. His vice president that was running with him was John Tyler. And William Henry Harrison made a great campaign slogan playing off an old nickname of his and John Tyler. Tippecanoe and Tyler too. It might sound dumb today, but y'all, back then, that was stinking genius. Campaign slogans weren't really a thing, so somebody coming up with this, selling merchandise, there's lots of stuff online. They sold cups, they sold badges, they sold all this stuff, and it worked. In 1840, William Henry Harrison won the presidential nomination. Oh my gosh, success! While George Washington himself might not have had an Instagram page, Presidents Unplugged does. If you want to see some presidential content and overall updates on the show, come to the Instagram at presidents_unplugged. See you there. Success, right? 4 years in office. 4 years in the presidential office. Yeah. We have a little bit of a problem here. Our problem is that William Henry Harrison is the oldest president in history at the time. William Henry Harrison in 1840 was 67 years old. Oh, that's ancient. And as I like to point out on this show, modern politics has told us that old politicians are normal, when they really should not be. William Henry Harrison, at 67 years old, was the oldest president in presidential history until Ronald Reagan was sworn in as president in 1981. He was old. But he didn't like people saying, "Oh, this old hag is running for president. Oh, he'll never do anything great." So he was like, "Watch me." And this "watch me" moment would end up turning on him and actually killing him. Yeah, listen up. Presidents have these things called inaugural addresses. They're the little things that they say to the Union at the beginning of their term to just basically say a little bit of what they want to do, thanking them for voting them into the position and being real subtle and kind about it. Yeah, modern politics, y'all, it's a little skewed, but it's okay. So, William Henry Harrison gives his inaugural address, but he's not an old hag. He's not going to talk for 5 minutes and give up because his dentures are about to fall out. So, he rides up to his inaugural address in a white horse, gets up on the podium, and speaks for 2 stinking hours, the longest inaugural address in presidential history. If this old man was talking for 2 hours, I'm sorry, I'm leaving, no matter what. But there's another reason I would leave, because the conditions at this inaugural address were terrible. It was cold outside. It was raining. And William Henry Harrison, trying to look young and sprout and youthful, like he'd drunk from the fountain of youth an hour before, doesn't even wear an overcoat. And it bites him in the butt. William Henry Harrison made this 2-hour speech in the bitter cold, and one day after his inaugural address, he's sick. He's so sick. Now, this is where the William Henry Harrison story gets a little foggy, because history, we as a country have not autopsied William Henry Harrison to figure out exactly what did kill him. But we do know between two. He rather got typhoid fever or pneumonia. Where could he have gotten typhoid fever? Probably drinking bad water in D.C. D.C. did not have a good sewer system, and you know bad sewer systems and water don't go really hand in hand well. Or he could have gotten pneumonia from speaking for 2 hours in the bitter cold. We don't know which one. All we know is that it killed this old man really fast. Only 30 days after being inaugurated, William Henry Harrison dies at the age of 68. That's it? He's just gone like that? Yeah. 30 days, he gone. Now, we had a problem. We'd never had a president die in office at this time. This was shocking to the nation, not only because he died, but what are we going to do? So they figured out, and they said, okay, we're going to put his vice president in the position of president. Okay, that works. Yeah. So John Tyler became the president. Were people really happy about it? You're going to have to figure out on the John Tyler episode, which I have no idea when it will be, but stay tuned. So, what real legacy does William Henry Harrison have? Only there for 30 days. What real legacy does he have? Well, I just want to let you know that William Henry Harrison should not be remembered simply because he died in 30 days. I don't think that's how we should really remember him. I think we should remember him as a war hero and one that fought for the country and began the Whig Party. He began a brand new party and fought through 2 elections to end up winning in the end. And even though that winning didn't last very long as he was in his deathbed, he won. Third parties do not win very often. In history, they rarely win. So him winning as the first Whig of many, we had a era of Whigs in the 1850s, is pretty impressive. And there's one bonus fact for this episode. William Henry Harrison had a son, who then had another son. This name was Benjamin Harrison. Benjamin Harrison is our 23rd president. If you don't know, he's actually the president in between the Grover Cleveland terms, because just like Donald Trump, Grover Cleveland had 2 non-consecutive terms. So there had to be somebody in the middle. And like with Trump, it was Biden in the middle. For Grover Cleveland, it was Benjamin Harrison. So William Henry Harrison's legacy lives on, whether that's with his grandson or the 30 days that he lived in office. He's a very interesting man that history cannot just frame as a loser for dying 30 days into his term. I hope you learned something about William Henry Harrison today. But next week, we have something even more interesting. Tune in next Friday as we talk about Ulysses Grant, the Civil War hero. Big Civil War. I shoot guns. I lead my army. Who was arrested for speeding on his horse in Washington, D.C. Really? A president arrested? Find out next Friday at 1. My name is Ty Svensson. This is Presidents Unplugged, and I'll see you next week. God bless. We need to make an executive decision now. The executive decision to follow Presidents Unplugged on Apple Podcasts or Spotify today to be notified weekly that your favorite presidential podcast has released new content. Now, let's get back to the show.